Well, everybody, welcome to this class today. We're going to be talking about comparison. My name is Camille Kennard, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I also have a certification as a health and wellness coach. And that's because I believe in taking care of our bodies to help us with our minds. So today we're going to talk about comparison, how we compare ourselves to other people. And it says on here it's a ridiculous thing to do, right? Or that it's ridiculous the way we compare ourselves as a way of measuring our self-worth. So I have a little bit of a cold, so I apologize. I'll try to be loud, but if you can't hear me, just raise your hand and say, speak louder. So comparison is something that we use to figure things out sometimes, right? Like I'm going to compare this product that I want to buy and this other one. Which one is cheaper? Which one works better? That's something that our brains are used to doing. And so when it comes to our own worth, sometimes we also do that with our own self-worth, is that we compare ourselves to other people. Sometimes we compare ourselves to our past self. Sometimes we compare ourselves to what we wish we could be, right? So what am I worth? If you were to say measuring your value, what are you worth?
I have a church answer for you.
What's that?
I have a church answer for you.
She has a church answer for us. Okay.
We are all of infinite worth.
Infinite worth. Okay. So the value of a human being, we can't even put a number on it, or we can't even say what a human being is worth, right? Each of you individually here has something special to share with the world, right? And so your self-worth is incomparable to anything, to anyone, because it's individual to you. So when we measure our value according to what other people say or what society says, why is that something that we don't want to do? Why is that something that maybe cause us some problems? Yeah.
The apples to oranges comparison when you're building a house or you're modeling and you want bids that are apples to apples comparison, or you don't really know what you're getting.
So it's not a fair comparison if I compare apples to oranges. They're a totally different type of fruit, right? The texture is different, the look is different, what they're going to give you nutrients-wise, the season that they come in, where you can grow. We can't really grow oranges here, but apples we can, right? And so I like that it's not fair to compare ourselves, right? But we do it, and I want you to be compassionate to yourself because all of us do this. I'm a clinical social worker, and I do this, okay? So I want you to be compassionate to yourself on that. But I want you to think about, how do you perceive yourself? What way do you think of yourself? What things do you think about often in yourself? Usually, a lot of us, if you guys have done some counseling in that, we call it our tape that goes in our head, what our self-talk is. What do we say in our heads about ourselves? Sometimes, I might have said to myself, well, that was stupid, or you shouldn't have done that, or kind of those perceiving yourselves in a negative light is something that is common. The next thing I want to talk about is, how do we determine our own value? It's natural, and if you were to walk out to the grocery store, or if you were to go tonight to a party, it's natural for people to have something they build their self-esteem on, right? First, what are some different ways that people might build their self-esteem, or some different ways that things they might use to measure their self-esteem? What do you think? Yeah.
Validation from others.
Validation from others. If I say you're smart, you're beautiful, you're intelligent, we feel good, right? When other people validate us. Anything else? Accomplishments. So if you can say, I have this degree, I did this, I went here, I'm a famous singer, all these things that show that you've accomplished something. Sometimes people measure themselves in that way, right? Yeah.
Children walked at 2 months and read at 6 months.
According to what maybe your kids did, that might be a reflection on your value. Yeah.
I was thinking of the numbers on clothing labels.
Okay. You mean like sizes? Okay.
Look, I got
Oh, okay. So like sometimes when especially women do this, I'm sure men do this as well, but women especially do this. I'm not a size whatever anymore. I'm down a size or whatever. So comparing that way. Okay.
The clothing sizes change.
Well, and it depends on who makes the clothing, right?
And what year it is.
A 10 could be this big or it could be this big, right? So it's just it just depends, right? So that's a good example of kind of what we do, which is we compare things that aren't related to each other. So this next one is perception versus reality. So when we're comparing ourselves to other people, are we comparing our reality to their reality? No. Do we know what their reality is? Most of the time we don't, right? Even if they're our best friend or our spouse, we really don't completely understand what their reality is, what they're experiencing in their heart, mind, and soul, right? So our perception is our reality. The way I walk around this world, if I think I'm the most beautiful woman out there, then that's my reality, right? Or if I think that I'm the stupidest person in the room, then that's my reality, right? So whatever our perception is, again, if I think I'm worse off than other women or I'm better than other people, that is our perception, right? It's a way that we view the world. And why do we use these types of perceptions to view the world? Why do you think?
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I think that it helps us process information
Yeah.
and to categorize. At least I feel like it'd be overwhelming if we didn't do that.
Okay. So it helps us process information and categorize. And I think I said earlier that our brains actually are built to do that comparison, problem solving, being able to put things in categories. You think about little kids when they're putting the numbers, the little blocks with the numbers in a row, right? That's something that we naturally do. And there's reasons why we want to do that, right? It kind of helps us organize our lives, organize our minds. So when we think about our own perceptions about who we are, sometimes those perceptions are based on what we call as thinking errors. Have you guys all heard of thinking errors before? Or our irrational thoughts? So when our perception about ourselves is something that is compared to other people or is negative, then we're looking at our own perception, right? I could say, I think that I'm not very smart, and I could have someone say, I think you're super smart, right? So it's that whole comparison and the way we see things. So I love psychology because that's what I studied and everything, but I think it's so interesting what our needs are as human beings. And that's why this comparison thing is so hard, is because we actually have a need to feel a positive self-concept, to feel self-esteem, to feel worthy, right? To have self-worth. That's an important characteristic that we have. We want to have that. So Maslow's hierarchy says what we as human beings need. The first is we need food and water. We need the basic necessities. The next thing is to feel safe and secure in our lives, right? To not have a threat or to feel in danger. Belonging. We all want to feel like we belong, like we're accepted, like we have friends, like we have family, people that are close to us, people that care about us, right? That's why validation from other people is so high, is because it's an actual human need. So I want you to think about this. Sometimes we feel guilt for feeling these needs. And do you know, this is something that everyone feels. This has actually been studied in psychology. Everyone goes through this. So we want to feel belonging. On the yellow part, we want to have intimate relationships. The next one is the one we're focusing mostly on today, which is our esteem needs. We have esteem needs. When you think about self-esteem, a lot of times we think of kids that struggle with their self-image, right? Or they're in junior high and their image is like up and down. Self-esteem needs is the need of feeling like you have accomplished something, feeling like you matter, that you have self-worth. And the top of this pyramid is self-actualization. And I love this because to me, self-esteem, believing in yourself and loving yourself leads to an actualization of knowing who you are and what your potential is and what you're here to do. It's about loving yourself. And I think that in our society, that's so looked down on because we think that that means you're going to be conceited or full of yourself, right? But it's actually a healthy thing to be able to get to a point where you are achieving your potential and you have creative ideas and you're excited about your life. So that ultimately is our goal. And this is a journey. This is a process, right? So I love to study these different things. There's self-esteem, self-concept, and self-image. So when you think about your self-image, I think of the woman who's staring at herself in the mirror, and what she sees is a woman that's a lot bigger than she actually is. So her self-image is actually a woman that is more overweight than she is, because that's her perception. So how do we look at our self-image? How do we view ourselves? When we look in the mirror, is it like, oh, we had a bad hair day? Or, I'm viewing myself in a negative light. Now, we all know that when we look at a person who maybe is dealing with an eating disorder or something like that, the way they're thinking about themselves is actually a thinking error, right? It's not the way reality is. But for all of us, we view ourselves in a certain way. We have a certain self-image. And this next thing is we also have what we call our self-esteem or our self-worth. This is, how do I see myself? What am I worth to the world? How much do I matter? That kind of a thing. So your self-esteem is what kind of drives you to want to have these accomplishments and have these, maybe sometimes our self-image is the way we see ourselves, and what we want to work on more is to become more of our ideal self, which is the third one there, what you wish you were really like. Now, this isn't about like beating yourself up, okay? I believe in self-compassion. I believe in kindness to yourself. This is about what you see right now yourself to be, how you feel you are worthy, what you feel you're worthy of, or how you esteem yourself. And then the last thing is your ideal self. What would you like yourself to be? And this is just in a view of we can always improve who we are and become better, right? But it's not saying that we're not worth something right now, in this moment, in this very second. I have a lot of clients that I work with who deal with body image issues, emotional eating, stress, problems with stress. And a lot of people will say, I'll be happy when I lose those 20 pounds. I'll be happy when my spouse acts differently. I'll be happy when my kids behave differently. What about right now having things be good, right? Right now, having a good self-image of yourself, having a good view of, I am awesome the way I am, and I'm a work in progress, and I'm continually learning. And isn't that awesome that I have insight and I can learn things about my life? So a lot of times when we compare ourselves to other people, who looks good and who looks bad? They usually look good and we look bad. I mean, there is comparison on the other side of, I feel better about myself if I can say I'm better than you, right? I'm better than you are at this certain thing or whatever. So there's kind of the looking down and looking up as far as the comparison goes. But generally we do look at it as, well, they have more than me, they're smarter than me, they're, more put together, whatever it is.